and thanks so much for being here with me, Helene, at Cabin Fever Crochet. Today I have a most lovely stitch pattern to show you that works up quickly. It gives really nice texture, stitch definition, a lot of highs and lows. This can be worked in a variety of yarn. It's an easy 2-row repeat with a 1-row setup. I also think this would work well for a variety of projects, and the first that came to my mind was a scarf. You can make a wrap, blanket, throw, or whatever your imagination comes up with. I highly recommend 2 hook sizes, one for the body of your work and going up 1 size for the beginning foundation chain, because this is one of those type of stitches that can shrink in on your first row, such as it did here when I did a little test run on this. You can see it better when I turned around how the top portion is more narrow than the bottom, and that will not look good on a finished project. So whatever the ball band recommends, you can always do a test swatch to see if it is too loose or too tight at the beginning, and then you can go up or down from there. So what I'm going to do is first show you the stitch and then different ways that I came up with that you could turn into some of the projects that I mentioned, and with just a couple of simple finishing edge variations. Oh, and I do recommend 1 stitch marker if you are newer to crochet or have a harder time finding your beginning stitch, particularly when doing an alternate double crochet, as I will show you as well, and that just helps to know exactly where your placement is on each end of the row. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. This piece I worked in Lion Brand Heartland yarn in number 4 weight. Today I'm working in Hobby Lobby's Yarn Bee Fresh Haven yarn in the color Red Clay. It's 100% Tencel yarn, a plant fiber pulp, number 4 medium. Recommends a 5.5 millimeter eye hook. That is what I'm going with, but I am going up to the J 6 millimeter for my beginning chain. This is worked in multiples of 7 plus 2 plus 2 more for the beginning foundation chain, making that turn for our first stitch. And you can work this on the short rows back and forth like I did, or long rows. So for example, if you wanted to turn this into a wrap, then you would just make this a really long chain for as wide as you want that to go around your body, and you just work the real long rows back and forth. And then so you can turn this around and use that pretty edge that creates a nice self scalloping with the shells for the bottom if you like. And then, as mentioned at the end, I'm going to show you how I would do an extended version of that, which I do oftentimes many in different projects, if I want to just continue with the same pattern and not have to come up with a whole nother stitch for the bottom edging. It looks really nice, and that it does break it up a little bit because the stitches are elongated. So I will show you that at the end. Alright, go ahead and work your multiples of 7 plus the 2 for the body of your work and 2 more for that turning chain. And if you are unsure how wide or long you want it, you can just make a very long chain and work your pattern until you've gotten to your desired length or width, and then very carefully take out that beginning slip knot, pull out those extra stitches, and you are good to go. And for a scarf, if you're doing something like this, I recommend to chain at least your 21 for your multiples of 7, then be sure and add those plus 2 and plus 2 more, because that will give you 3 full repeats, right? Because 7 into 21 is 3. And that gives you a really nice balance. You have your center focal point plus 1 shell on either side. I've worked my chain of 21 plus the extra 4. I'm going to switch now to the smaller of the 2 hooks, and we are going to work 1 double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook and rolling over to the back side and work into the back bumps or that middle raised stitch, same thing, and that will give you a full stitch along the edge that you can work into if you want to place a border or work the scarf in the way that I'm going to show you how I would do that. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, fourth chain, work 1 double crochet, and those first 3 skip chains do count as your first double crochet, so that will give you 2 at this end. Now you are going to skip the next 2 chains and into the next place 5 double crochet all into that chain. Alright, skip the next 2 chains and place 1 double crochet in each of the next 2. 1 and 2. And the shell set of 5 double crochets plus these 2 count, that's your first repeat. Those are your first 7 stitches with 2 at each end of row 1. Alright, again, skip 2, 5 double crochet into the next, skip the next 2, and just a note here, because you are putting 5 stitches into 1, it tends to draw in the stitch to the right and left of it towards the bulk of these stitches. So don't accidentally miss the stitch next to the 5 shells or you will come up short. Now skip the next 2 and place 1 single or double crochet, into each of the next 2. Skip 2, 5 double crochets into the next, skip 2 and 1 double crochet into each of the last 2, and that completes our one and only setup row. Okay. Now for row 2, you can either chain 3 or you can work an alternate double crochet, because it will give you a really nice full stitch on either side. On this particular method of an alternate double crochet, you do not chain, you just turn your work, insert your hook, make 1 single crochet, and then go back in to the loop on the left side, just that one front portion, pulling up the 1 strand, and you make another single crochet. Alright, so you either chain 3 or you work the alternate in that beginning stitch, and then you're going to place 2 more double crochets into that very first stitch. Alright, now you're going to skip 3, and in between the second and this third stitch in that group of 5, you're going to work 1 double crochet, and in between the middle double crochet of the 5 and the next stitch, you're going to work another double crochet. Then you're going to skip the next 3, and in between these set of 2 double crochets, you're going to work 5 double crochets. So you're not working into the stitch of the double crochets, you are working in between. And that is going to be your repeat. So here we have the reversed order. We have the 2 double crochets together and then the set of 5. So that is your 7 for the next repeat. And again, you skip the next 3 double crochets, and in between that second and third, which is the middle stitch of your 5, you work a double crochet. You skip the next double crochet and you work between that middle stitch and the next, just as we did, making another double crochet. And again, you skip the next 3, and in between those 2 double crochets you work 5 double crochets. Yes, I know I made that stitch a little bit loose. Normally I would take that out and fix it, but I'm not going to worry about it for this sample. Alright, again, skip 3, and at between the second and third you place a double crochet, and in between that third middle stitch and the next you place another double crochet. So you're just working around. And then you will skip the next 3, which brings you up to the last double crochet, and you are going to place 3 double crochet in between the last double crochet and that chain 3 beginning stitch we did. Alright, so place 3 double crochet there. Alright, and that completes row 2, which is actually row 1 of our repeat, and you're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 over and over and over again. Alright, so now for row 3, again you can either chain 3 or turn and work your alternate. Again, you single crochet, place your hook onto the left loop and that front loop only, and single crochet again. And on this row you are going to double crochet in between the first and second double crochet. So you're going to be alternating on the first row of your repeat rows. Row 2, you have 3 double crochets at each end, and on row 3, the second row of your repeat, you have 2 rows on each end. Alright, so now we're going to skip the next 3 double crochets, which brings us to our first set of 2 double crochets. You're going to work 5 double crochets in there. And then you jump over to your next set of 5, and like we did before, you are going to work 1 double crochet in between the second and that middle stitch, and then in between the middle and the next double crochet you work another double crochet. Then you jump over to the next set of 2 double crochets and work your 5. Then between your second and middle double crochet of that set of 5, double crochet, and again in between that middle next stitch and the next, work another double crochet. Over to the next set of 2, place your 5. And that brings us up to the last 3 double crochets. And what we are going to do here is we're going to end with 1 double crochet in the space between the last 2. You're going to place 1 double crochet there, and then 1 either into the top of your churning chain or the top of your alternate double crochet, and that completes row 3. Alright, so I'm going to go through those 2 rows with you one more time and just show you the little changes and things that I would do if I were creating an actual project from this. Okay, so one more time, repeating row 2, turn your work your chain 3, or hopefully you're doing this alternate double crochet. So row 2, this is where we put 2 more double crochets into that first, and we have 3 at each end. And then it's just so easy from here. Now we have our set of 5 double crochets, so you make 1 double crochet in between the second and the third, which the third will always be your middle stitch of those 5, and then in between the next 2. Jump over, there we go, our 2 double crochets together, so work your 5. Okay, and then in the next we worked our 5, so then now we work our 2 double crochets in between the second and middle stitch and in between the next 2. And here we are, jump over to the set of 2, work your 5. Work your 2 between the second and third in that set of 5, and in between the next 2. Here we are at the end, and this is where we put 3 double crochet in between your last 2 stitches. Again, turn, work that alternate if that's what you're doing, or your chain 3. Alright, and here's where we work 1 double crochet in between the first and second stitch. And now we just go right back into pattern. 5 double crochets in between the set of 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet in between the second and third, and in between the next 2. Carry that on across, and then at the end of this row you work 1 double crochet in between the last 2, and then 1 into the top of your alternate double crochet or your turning chain. So you repeat rows 2 and 3 to your desired length or width, and then end on row 3, which will be the right side of your work. Now if you're working a scarf so that your shells wind up in the same direction on both sides coming down the front of your body, and because we have a straight edge here and a scalloped on the other, here's something else that I do when I'm making scarves. I would go ahead and work the half of this to my desired length and do my edging however I want to do that. Cut my yarn, fasten off, sew in my ends, and then I would stop, reconnect to the other side, and finish the other half. So that way you have the pattern that is all facing the same way as it's draping down the front of your body. Okay, so say we just finished row 3 on the right, make sure I'm on the right side of the work. Hang on, I took that out. I'm going to have to put that back in row 3. Alright, hang on a sec. So rotate your work around, keeping it on the right side facing up. And then you're going to reconnect on the edge, the left side of your work, into the top of that beginning chain 3 and that very first bottom chain. You see, I just pulled it out. Sometimes that shrinks down in there. So you pull that up count 1, 2, 3 up from the bottom, or it's going to be the very next free chain to the left from your upside down double crochet next to it. Okay. Bring your new yarn through, and then you just begin with your repeat pattern, starting with row 2, and continue the process all over again. And what I would do, since we already have something to connect to, instead of doing a chain 3 on this end, you can leave a nice long tail now to sew that in. You can turn your work, and you just insert your hook back into that same stitch. Might be a little bit tight, get it in there, and you can work over your tail end and begin your alternate double crochet, and that will also help lock your tail end. And then when you're all done and you weave in your end, tuck that in somewhere, weave it in to the back side, and you can just make a little knot inside of there, and then just keep weaving it in to hide all of that, and it'll keep it secure from coming apart. Alright, then you just continue on with your pattern. So row 2, we will place 2 more double crochets into that very same stitch. Skip these 2 chains, and then going to work in between the second and the middle stitch. We'll just go right down in between those 2. You're working upside down, but the pattern is the same, and then you work in between those next 2. Alright, skip the next 2 stitches, 2 chains, alright, and then work 5 double crochet in between the next 2 right around that chain. And then you just continue on with the pattern, okay? And then you wind up with the 2 double crochets at the end, and you will just place 3 double crochets in between those last 2 stitches, just as we have been doing. And then you carry on with row 3, and you repeat your 2 rows over and over again to the same length as you did the first half, and then you finish your end the same as you did the first half also. What you can do to have an additional separation, scalloped edge on the bottom, very simple way, after you have completed on row 3 the first 2 double crochets for very easy finish. Let's try that with 2 doubles and a triple, see how that looks. Okay, so I did the 2 doubles, I just did a triple. Alright, now I'm going to do 2 doubles again. And then I'm going to go ahead and try a double with that. Okay, okay, that gives you another look there. It just brings, with having that triple down in the center, it just draws that down a little bit more. Actually, I think I even like that perhaps the best. The 2 double crochets, 1 triple, and then 2 doubles to make up the set of 5. Or now, if you want to place fringe, alright, then you could put the fringe in between the first and second double crochet. And if you want fringe going across, you could add a chain for the 3rd stitch instead of a double or triple, and then finish your 2 doubles. Okay, so that way you could put fringe in between each of the 2 double crochets and each chain 1 space, and then you would just continue that all the way across. If you are working this into a blanket type of stitch, and want to clean up your edges all the way around, it would be easy to put a single crochet in each stitch, and then you can add on whatever border that you like. So I would start by chaining 1 and putting 3 single crochets into that very last double crochet on the end row, and the 3 counts as 1 stitch essentially to make that corner, at least on the first round. And then you just put 1 single crochet into the next, and that is the top row. And then for each row thereafter you put 2 single crochets along the side, and because each row we're working in double crochets and 2 singles count as 1 double, so you would need 2 singles going along the edge of each row. When you get to the next corner, your bottom edge here, then you would put 3 in the very bottom, and then just 1 single crochet into the next double crochet, 1 into each chain, 1 into the next, which lines up with the center double crochet of that shell, 2 chains, 1 into each and the next 2, and into your 2 double crochets, again the next 2 chains, the next, which again should line right up with that center double crochet, and you continue that all the way across to the edge with 3 single crochets into the top of that chain 3 on the edge, and then you turn, put another single crochet into the next, all the way down the line and around. When you get to the end where your shell stitch is, to even up that scalloped edging, I already placed my 3 single crochets in the corner. Now go ahead and put 1 into that second double crochet, 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 double crochets, which brings me up to my set of 5. So in the shortest, the very first double crochet, I would place 1 half double, and then 1 single into each of the next 3 with 1 half double in the last double crochet of that set of 5. Alright, 1 in each of the next 2, and then I would just repeat that all the way across that shell edge. And you would already have 3 single crochets in the last stitch, because this is your first corner and you have made your last round, and then you just slip stitch to the beginning and then continue on with whatever border pattern you would like, and then you see how working those single crochets cleaned up and straightened out that edge. Alright, well, I do believe that is everything I wanted to cover and show you today. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you will make this lovely pattern. Alright, my fiber friends, as always, please take good care. Hope you will come back again next time. Stay well, stay safe, have fun, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.